The Baltimore Ravens get some good news today and a little bit more salary cap on a case that I forgot was even still going on. We'll talk about where they could potentially spend this money. Lamar Jackson absolutely crushed his acting debut last night. I want to show some love to him. And I want to highlight a player that I feel like a lot of people around the NFL are sleeping on. All that and more in today's episode of the Flock Rundown.
Ravens Flock. Flock Rundown is the place to be.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Appreciate all you guys that came through in the live last night and we're showing love. It's fun having different content creators and different opinions on, I learned the more of these collabs I do that I'm probably more on like the optimistic side of this Ravens team. I always kind of hope for the best, but it's healthy to have a bunch of different takes and different opinions come on and talk about this team that we all love. So appreciate you guys for coming through. Shout out to two new members, Asmodeus Thanatos. You came through in the live last night and became a member, but I want to highlight it again. Appreciate you. And Ray Taylor, thank you, man. Appreciate you guys so much. But let's dive into this good news. So the Ravens still had the Grievance case going on with Tyus Bowser that has been going on for a while now. I wasn't even thinking about this, but today the grievance was dropped. So Tyus Bowser withdrew his $4.5 million grievance against the Ravens for how they handled his knee injury during the 2023 season. And the Ravens will now officially get a $1.8 million salary cap credit. Not a ton of money, but everything helps when you're tight against the cap, and I feel like the Ravens are in a position, as always, to go sign some vets, and it probably won't happen until after June 1st. The big name right now that everybody's talking about that the Ravens should go sign is Jadeveon Clowney, who just got released yesterday. I talked a little bit about that on the live last night, but this would obviously be a great addition to the room. I do think that they want to see the young guys first. I know a lot of people are writing David Ojabo off. I see so many comments that are just like, he's gone, he's done. And maybe you're right. But I feel like the Ravens want to get a good look, don't want to just sign Clowney and move on from Ojabo. Plus, Clowney, he's talked about it before. He doesn't love going through all the offseason stuff and the camps. And, he's the perfect late addition, kind of like Kyle Van Noy was years ago, or even Clowney, I think when we signed him, was late. So he's most likely, in my opinion, now it could be earlier. I see a lot of rumors floating out there that it's heating up and things like that. I'm not sure, but if I had to make a guess, I do think we could sign Jadeveon Clowney for sure. I just think it happens later in the summer. Jadeveon Clowney's just going to enjoy his summer, not be on a team, and then sign late, like right before the season. The Ravens also then get a good look throughout camp and the preseason at David Ojabo, Adisa Isaac, give them some meaningful minutes in those games and see if they can stay healthy, if they can take a leap and shine and start making some plays. So I think it helps both sides there. Clowney gets a break, gets to join late, and the Ravens get to see what they got with the young guys. I think that that's the perfect situation, but I'm all for bringing on Jadeveon Clowney, man. I mean, he said it before. He had his Kobe year with us and absolutely dominated. We had the number one defense in the NFL. That was with Mike McDonald and a lot of different personnel, honestly. That defense looked a lot different than the one now, but I think Clowney would be a welcomed addition, and I probably would prefer Clowney over an Ojabo or Isaac, but like I said, let's give them a chance. I don't want to write these guys off. They're still young enough in their careers that I feel like they could turn this around. So I'm all for Clowney. I'm also for giving the young guys a chance. We have a very crowded linebacker room. Unless you are completely moving on from Ojabo or Isaac, you don't really have a lot of room. We got 6 linebackers right now that seem to be slotted into the roster. That does include David Ojabo, but I definitely think you should give the young guys a chance, but I'm also excited about the addition of Clowney if that happens. Moving on to a player on the Ravens that I feel like everyone in the NFL is sleeping on. I know a lot of Ravens fans might not be, but a lot of people across the league are sleeping on Keaton Mitchell. And this sparked my mind yesterday because I'm in a bunch of fantasy leagues, and 2 of my dynasty leagues, they're just throwing Keaton on the waiver, and they're just, after the rookie draft, Keaton Mitchell gets dropped and tossed to the wolves, and I'm like, I went and grabbed Keaton Mitchell, and I'm like sitting here thinking, like, this guy could really have a role, and Derrick Henry's not extended. Like, there's a chance that the Ravens do want to keep Keaton Mitchell around for a few more years. He's a versatile player too. He also does kick returns, and I think he is a very underrated running back. We'll see if he can, stay healthy throughout the course of a year with a workload. I think that would be the only question, but his talent, his burst, his speed, his home run ability, that is not in question. And he had a bad injury, no doubt, but it happened at a very young age for him, and I think he'll bounce back fine. Last year, he came back and wasn't getting a lot of reps. A lot of us were like, why is Keaton not playing? Why is Keaton not playing? And I just don't think he was ready. Every time you heard Harbaugh talk about it, they were like, that's a very tough injury that he's kind of still working his way back from. So they threw him at kick returner a bunch, and we didn't get to see him at running back much. But we did see a little bit of him at running back. He still looked good. And I think now having a fully healthy offseason and coming into this year, I think that Keaton Mitchell is someone to watch out for, man. I know he's not going to be our lead back. We obviously got Derrick Henry still. Can't forget about Justice Hill. He's provided a ton of value for the Ravens, very versatile player as well. But I think there's a three-headed monster there. I think Keaton Mitchell and Justice Hill provide such a nice alternative balance to what Derrick Henry brings to the table with his power. And Derrick Henry's not slow either, but, Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell got a different type of burst and twitch to their game, especially Keaton Mitchell. And when Keaton Mitchell first came in before that injury, man, felt like he was scoring a touchdown every time he touched the ball. And we've heard from Keaton Mitchell throughout this offseason a few times. He seems very motivated, very confident about this season and what he can bring to the Ravens. And I just think a lot of people are sleeping on Keaton Mitchell. That is a weapon for this Ravens offense, and I'm excited to see him hit the field. I'm excited to see what his role is this year. We do have three really good backs, and Rasheen Ali still on the roster, but I feel like he's kind of the odd man out. But I'm very high on Keaton Mitchell. Picked him up in both of my dynasty leagues. Not starting him. He's more of just like a deep bench. We'll see if his role can expand type of play, but I'm very confident that he can provide a lot of spark to this Ravens run game and in the pass game too. Like Lamar can check down to Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell as an outlet, and they can go do some damage down the field. These guys are great football players and can make people miss, have a lot of speed, especially Keaton Mitchell. I think that the sky's the limit for Keaton Mitchell, man. If he can just stay healthy and, have a full season under his belt, I think we're going to see a different Keaton Mitchell. I think his role really expands in this Ravens offense. The last thing I wanted to highlight, there's not a ton of news going on, but want to be here for you guys, bringing you whatever news there is. But I want to show some love to Lamar Jackson. We talked yesterday about all the off-the-field opportunities that he's been getting this season and how great that is. But last night we actually got to see it. The could-have-been records, auditions came out. And Lamar Jackson was like the pre-audition before they would go in and see Drewski. If you guys haven't watched that, it's absolute comedy, man. It is hilarious.
Call me no motherfucking dummy. I'm not with it. I'm not too fond of it. Smarty. Shit, call me Smarty.
You don't always get to see a ton of Lamar's personality like that, so it's really cool to see him, be himself a little bit and crack some jokes too. Everyone in the locker room is always saying like Lamar's a comedian and stuff, and you definitely see it here and there, but you really get to see it on something like Could Have Been. So Lamar absolutely killed it. It's a hilarious episode. And then his acting debut on the Power Show as well, man. He absolutely killed it. Lamar Jackson can act. So shout out Lamar. I'm so glad he's getting all these opportunities and he's actually doing them and expanding his off the field presence. And because you don't have to do that. He's been private his whole career. I don't know if it was a lack of opportunities not coming his way as often, things that he didn't want to do or whatever it was. But now he's doing a lot of different things and we're seeing, Lamar Jackson kind of everywhere throughout the offseason. And I think that that's healthy to get your mind off of football and expand your business and your brand. And then also just for the fans to get a different light of Lamar, get to see him in a different light, and get to learn a little bit more about him. I just think it's cool. And I know when it's time for football, he's going to lock in. He already talked about how he's turning it up a notch this year. We had Kyle Van Noy on ESPN yesterday saying that he expects Lamar to turn it up a notch, which is crazy, by the way. Lamar had his best season by far, one of the best seasons of all time last season, but there is room for growth. We all know that he could take it up a notch, and I think he's just getting warmed up, man. I think the greatest quarterback that we've ever had in franchise history is going to get better, which is crazy to say, and I can't wait to see it, man. We got the NFL schedule coming out Wednesday, pretty close to that. That's always exciting, going through the schedule and doing some win-loss predictions, even though you really have no idea. It's just fun to see how many primetime games we got. Hopefully we get a home Monday Night Football game. I feel like they've always kind of did us dirty on that. Hopefully we're not playing on Christmas. I know it's amazing to play on Christmas, but we've had back-to-back years playing on Christmas. Let's give the guys off, the day off and go be with their family and stuff. But I can't wait to see the schedule. That's next Wednesday. And then we have mini camp the last week of May into the first week and a half of June. So we'll get to see a lot of the vets mix in with the rookies. That's super exciting. That's only 3 weeks away. And then mandatory mini camp June 17th through the 19th. So we're getting there, man. We are inching our way to another football season, and I'm excited. I can't wait. So we're getting there, man. We are inching our way towards another football season, and I cannot wait. But let me know what you guys are thinking about everything. What's on your mind? Appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll let the greatest linebacker in the history of the game take us out.
Ravens Flock. The Flock Rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. The Flock Rundown. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.